Welcome to a Kingshot Governor Gear and Charm Guide. If you have been lost in how to upgrade these things in the most optimal way, this is the video for you. And don't worry, it's never too late to start your optimization. If you are curious how to optimize your gear for your champions, check out the video that I made on that earlier. And in this video, let's focus in on the Governor Gear and Charms. Now, if you haven't heard before, the presumed most important stats in the game for combat when you're attacking either, Caesares or attacking another player's base, or when you're being attacked, the most important stats that are thought to be involved in determining the win is going to be infantry's health, followed by infantry's defense in a somewhat similar proxy, because you want your infantry frontline troops to survive as long as possible so your backline can keep doing damage. And second to that, you want to focus in on your archer lethality or attack. Lethality and health are thought to be better because of how they scale, but in this situation with the gear, we only have attack and defense. But if you go into charms, you can see you are going to get lethality and health from those. So charms are going to be of a bit more value, but they do use different resources, so you don't have to worry about picking and choosing. You just upgrade the ones that you have the resources for. However, you're probably not going to be able to upgrade all of the pieces at the same time. So which ones do you start with, and should you leave some behind? Well, as you can see, I currently have 2 stars on my 2 pieces of gear that apply to infantry, and only 1 on the others. Now, I went with that first because, as we mentioned, infantry survival is of the most importance. So I have went for infantry first. If we go into the charms, we can take a look here and see that my charms, I've currently gone to level 2 on both of my infantry pieces as well as both of my archer pieces. And that's because, once again, those are the top 2 troop types, and cavalry are of last sort of value. Now, if you think about just going infantry, archer, cavalry, and upgrading them sequentially in that order, you are not going to go wrong. That is going to be a very great strategy. Just doing both infantry, both archer, and both cavalry after that, and then resetting and going up 1 tier or level at a time. And you can definitely do that for gear and for charms. However, there is something else to consider, and that comes here with the Artisan Vision resource for upgrading Governor Gear. Now, with the Governor Gear, you start off just needing the silk, or the satin, and the gilded threads. It starts to get fairly expensive, and then all of a sudden you need the Artisan Visions, and the cost of the satin and gilded thread drops significantly. So when you are still not at the level to use the Artisan Visions, you should probably be focusing some of your currencies in game and efforts in events to collect this, because it is going to be a massive roadblock in terms of passing certain levels on the Governor Gear. However, once you get to purple, which doesn't happen for a while, you got to go through blue, 1 star, 2 star, and 3 star, and then you get into the purple. But once you get to the purple, you are going to have a big drop in the cost of the Artisan Visions, but a spike in the cost of the Satin and Gilded Threads. So one consideration would be to take a few pieces of gear specifically, and I would, in order of priority, focus on having 2 of your infantry pieces and 1 of your archer pieces. I'm going to come back to why it's 3 in a minute here, and focus on bringing those pieces up to purple and leaving a few back in blue. And that is going to allow you to break through this big barrier of Artisan Visions and start using up some of these other materials that are going to collect in a large degree. I just barely got to these tiers, and I've already gotten 35,000 satin, and I'm still only not able to upgrade each of these pieces twice. I can't even upgrade both of these pieces or these pieces because I don't even have 90 yet. And so you can see I'm barely going to be touching these resources before I run out of the Artisan Vision. But if you can break into the purple tier, then you're going to be able to use the other resources and upgrade the gear a little bit easier when the Artisan Vision cost drops down a little bit. And then after it starts to climb again, you can go back and start to finish catching up the other 3 pieces. Now, for the gear, why is it 3 pieces? Well, if we pop back out here to this page, you can look at this little triangle and, is that a hexagon, I guess, eh? It shows you that you get stat bonuses for having 6 of the same rarity or 3 of the same rarity. So right now, I only have my pieces at, the 1-star level for the rare because I don't have 3 yet. I've only got 2. And so it's the same kind of level that I'm getting the bonuses. But if you take 3 pieces, for example, both infantry and 1 archer piece up together to a higher tier, you're going to advance this set bonus for having 3 pieces at the same rarity. Even though you're leaving 3 behind, you're going to have the 6 bonus at what is the lower tier that you left behind. But at least if you take 3 up at a time, you're going to continue to get that partial set bonus applied. So that is a strategy to consider. I'm going to try that myself because, especially as a free-to-play or low spender, getting these Artisan Visions is a very slow process. And if I upgrade all of them together, I'm going to get to a point where I've got probably over 100,000 or multiple 100,000s of satin, and I don't need that. So if I can get to a point where I break that high cost Artisan Vision point and can start spending some of these other resources, it'll help me continue pushing my gear score up a little bit higher. So that is my plan. And then over on charms, you basically just have to keep going through the steps. Again, I'm going to focus on doing my infantry pieces first, and then my archer pieces, and then my cavalry pieces. You don't want to leave pieces too far behind. But again, the most important are going to be infantry and archer. And a big reason for that is because the ideal march percentages when you send out troops is going to be either 30% infantry and 50% archers, with the remainder 20% being cavalry, or you're going to do 50% infantry, 30% archer, and again 20% cavalry. And so because you always have cavalry in a smaller portion, the stats put into it are only benefiting a smaller portion of troops on your march. So you're not getting as much value out of it. But if you're always sending a march with 50% infantry, then every stat that you put into infantry is affecting half of your march, and that's going to significantly improve the potential of that march team compared to if you went heavy into cavalry but weren't sending very many cavalry troops. Another big reason to make sure you're also bringing up archer and not just doing infantry is because when you are doing bear trap, which is a big source of rewards, you're mostly getting damage from your archers. And so when you're ascending your rally as a leader, that's the only time where your stats will matter. But as the rally leader, if you have at least a reasonable amount of archer lethality stats, you're going to have you and your team doing more damage. So it's a fairly simple baseline strategy. You're focusing on the infantry pieces as a priority, the archer pieces as a secondary, and then the falling behind one that can be slightly lag behind is cavalry. If you are going to just do them all one rarity up at a time, start with both infantry pieces, move on to both archer pieces, and then to both cavalry pieces and back to infantry, and just keep cycling through that way. And again, if you want to see the hero gear guide, check that out on my channel. Let me know if you have any other little tips or tricks, and I hope to see you in the next video.